An hour ago, a bomb blew up the Kremlin. The president has initiated Ghost Protocol.
Dun, 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 dun.
Did you just write that?
Yeah, just a minute ago. And that, of course, is the theme song for the movie we are about to review, and that is the 4th Mission Impossible film, Ghost Protocol. I am guest critic Chris Bucci for my favorite website in the world, RealScreenReviews.com. And this, of course, is the guy who runs the place, Nick Iacobucci.
Thank you. I'm movie critic Nick Iacobucci, as always, for RealScreenReviews.com. And thank you for joining me here, Chris.
Hey, thanks.
And our movie we're going to be reviewing is Mission Impossible 4, Ghost Protocol, that opened in worldwide release on Wednesday, December 21st, 2011. And returning in the title role of Ethan Hunt is Tom Cruise. Joining him is Jeremy Renner, Tom Wilkinson, Simon Pegg, and some others. This film comes to us from director Brad Bird, the director of Disney's The Incredibles and Rat-Tat-Tooey. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it back over to my guest critic to tell us a little bit about Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Well, let me preface this by saying that I actually saw it in IMAX in Manhattan.
He's a lucky dog.
Because they released it like a week before everyone else. And it was great to see it in IMAX. But it's pretty much a Mission Impossible movie. I mean, these guys are on an impossible mission.
Is that where they got that?
Yeah, so I'll see you later. That's about it. But actually, Ethan is actually, what do you want to call it? He's in prison at the beginning.
Yes.
And he needs to be rescued.
Yes.
And once he's rescued by this sort of new team, he kind of joins this team on a new mission.
Right.
I mean, they go to the Kremlin. They go to that the tallest building. What is it
Once
called?
again, I don't know the name of it, but it was pretty impressive to see it.
Oh, they go everywhere, and of course, they see everything in this
They
film.
really do globetrot. I'll tell you what, the locales are almost a character all themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you, I think that actually they went back to basics in this film, and they went back to the basics of action movies in this film. They didn't give us a very complex or technical story, but I don't think that the movie had to. It genuinely crafted one breathtaking action segment after the next, and it barely gave you time to catch your breath before it thrust you into another adventurous spectacle.
Yeah, and you would assume that when they make a joke in it that they're going to go to the Kremlin, and Simon Pegg's going, I thought you said the Kremlin. Wait, we're going to the oh, you know, you would think that would be the big climax. They're going to the Kremlin. No, that's the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Then they go to another place and another place. Something you said one time was, it almost seemed like the scenes were crafted, the action scenes were crafted, and then the story was sort of built around it.
And I wouldn't be surprised.
That's how it feels. It's so well done that you go, how did they come up with all this on the spot? It had to be well rehearsed.
You know, I love Jeremy Renner. I thought, like you said, he was standout in the movie The Town. I love Tom Cruise. You got to tip your hat to the guy running down buildings at 140 floors and jumping through windows at 130 floors. The man's 50 years old and he's still at the top of his game when it comes to the action genre. Yeah. But I'm so glad that you made reference to Simon Pegg, because he's such a fun actor to watch.
Wonderful.
He really adds a whole lighter tone to this film. I think that the movie really would have suffered without him in it.
Yeah, because everyone else is kind of like, I'm part of the team, let's get the work done. And Simon Pegg's kind of like the comic relief, you know, that comes in just at the right time, and he's really, really funny. I got to also say that Renner surprised me, because after The Town, I saw him as like a really scary villain.
He plays the bad boy extremely well.
So I kind of thought he was going to end up being that same character in this one. When I first saw him show up on screen, I went, oh, okay, well, there's probably the bad guy. It turned out not to be at all.
Right.
And in fact, he had some really, really funny moments too, because he was kind of unsure of himself, and he's kind of joining the team.
And Ethan was unsure of himself in some of those scenes.
Those were wonderful
And I thought
moments.
those scenes worked too.
When he kind of was like, do I really want to do this? You know, that made him a more complex character than I remember him being, to be honest with you, before.
And I'll tell you something else that works in the film's favor is there's a girl in the film, there's a girl as part of the team, but there's no love interest in this movie, and it doesn't try to incorporate that into this story. And I'll tell you, I don't think there's any room for that in this movie, because it's so nuts and bolts, right, going from one story to the next, one scene to the next. There's really no time for that, and the filmmakers don't waste your time with anything that's not necessary in the story.
And that's, although at the very end, speaking of love interest, there's a really cute little ending that I kind of liked. It was a neat touch. But you know, you mentioned something about the complexity of the story. I'm kind of burned out on the Mission Impossible franchise, to be honest. When I saw the third one, I was kind of like, I guess it was okay. I don't even really remember it that well, to be honest with you.
I remember that Philip Seymour Hoffman was the villain.
Well, yeah, there you go. And J.J. Abrams, before he was J.J. Abrams, directed.
Before he was J.J. Abrams.
Because I really liked the first one.
Yes,
and then John
Brian
Woo,
De Palma film. I love the first one.
Oh, definitely. And then John Woo directed the second, and I was on a John Woo kick at that time. Anything Face Off, Hard Target, didn't matter. I was going to watch
movies.
it. And then by the third one, I was kind of burned out. So when I saw the trailer, I'm not going to lie, I kind of went, really? There's another one? Tom Cruise needs to remain in Tropic Thunder, you know, with the bald cap and the meat hooks, because he was so fantastic.
Awesome. He was awesome.
Kind of reinventing himself in that. And I know you said you liked Night and Day.
I liked Night and Day a lot.
I heard a lot of my friends didn't like it, so I thought maybe as an action star, he was kind of done. But I'll tell you what, after seeing Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol,
absolutely.
it is completely,
still carry a film.
It brought me right back into this world again.
And something else that we discussed, and we made reference to this in the best of the year, is credit director Brad Bird. This is the man that created Disney's The Incredibles and Disney's Ratatouille, and he won the Academy Award for Best Animated Film for both of those features, and righteously so. This man is an Academy Award-winning filmmaker, and he made that jump from animated films to live-action films flawlessly. Great word to pick. Yep. I'll tell you, he had me on the edge of my seat through most of this film. He is just, I guess I could see that he really is a visionary director. He knew what he wanted to do before he went in and started to make this film, and I probably would venture to say that everything that he wanted to come off came off perfectly.
Yep, I agree. And I started the movie kind of like, not really like that excited, kind of like, okay. By the end of the movie, I wanted to see more.
Yeah, it was just fantastic.
The way they set it up, it's not a passing of the torch thing, because Tom Cruise is still in charge.
You know,
they made
a point to say that. They made a point to say that he was passing the torch to Jay, and I didn't see that at all.
What happened was it put together a new team, and I would love to see another one with this same group of people, because they work so well together.
And you know what? This franchise, what really works in the franchise of Mission Impossible is it's not like a series like The Lord of the Rings or something. It's not they don't have to make sequels. Like that doesn't the next one doesn't have to pick up right where this one leaves off. They can make a new story with new villains. They're not held or confined to any one storyline like The Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or something like that. Every new movie can be a new adventure, and I think that they should really embellish that fact, because they could really make movies with this group of four people for 10 more years. I mean, it was great. It was just great fun. Well, Chris, it sounds like it's going to be a really good. What is Chris's real screen review for Mission Impossible 4?
You know, I tell you, I'm close to giving it a 4. Not quite. Right. I'd have to say a 3.5, but it is a solid 3.5. I think you'll have a blast. And again, you were talking about the story. To me, the movie's just on par with the first. It's my second favorite, if not tied for the first, and my favorite in the franchise. The story is not as convoluted as the original, which I thought was a bit almost too much. Right. It almost feels just right, but you even mentioned it's not the point of this one. Right. It's just enough to get things moving along from one wonderful scene to the next. So definitely, I loved it. I really did. Surprisingly.
3.5 from you?
3.5.
Well, I'm going to say that I'm right on line with you. I'm going to say that I think this is just as good as the first one, if not better than the first one. And I, too, am also going to give this 3.5 stars out of 4. I think it's one of the year's finer films, if not the year's finest action film. And I said, once again, credit star Tom Cruise and director Brad Bird for crafting and putting together one truly remarkable action spectacle. And real fast, I will say, back in 1987, when I was still watching Siskel and Ebert because they were still together on the show, I saw the original Lethal Weapon, and I actually went and saw the original Lethal Weapon like 3 days after I saw it the first time. I thought it was the most amazing action film. And then Roger Ebert at the end of the year put that as the number 5 best film of 1987, and I thought that was great because it shows you that there are mainstream action films that can be the best films of the year, that can be truly one of the best films of the year. And it was like that 25 years ago with Lethal Weapon, and it's true today with Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Easily. And when we were putting our list together of the top favorite movies, that made my honorable mention, and it was creeping its way up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how much I just enjoyed it. It's all about enjoying it.
Absolutely. You know? And that's the reason people go to the movies, to be enjoyed. To have enjoyment and to be entertained by Hollywood. So, Chris, thank you so much for being here and sharing your thoughts and opinions for Mission Impossible. It sounded like it was a good day for both of us reviewing this one, with 3.5 stars from Chris and 3.5 stars from me. And we're going to wrap this up. We're going to say thank you very much for tuning in to Real Screen Reviews.
And remember, people, we're not always right.
But only when it comes to the movies.
And thank you for your attention.
See, I knew he'd get it eventually.
And this review will self-destruct.
In 5 seconds.
Okay, now remember, blue is glue.
And when it's red?
Dead.
You're not helping.